Many Excel formulas take advantage of a basic feature called a relative reference. If we write a formula in cell J2 here, it's going to calculate a new salary. We will refer to a cell that's 2 cells away to the left. And when we end up copying that formula, we'll make sure, and we won't have to do anything special at all, that every formula that we copy will also refer to cells that are 2 cells to the left. It makes perfect sense in this example. But sometimes we need to use what's called an absolute reference. So let's begin with a formula here that's going to calculate a new salary based on data not only in cell H2, but also in cell M1. And there are any number of different ways to write this formula, but certainly one way would be equal H2 times M1, and then take that amount and add to it the initial starting salary. And so our new salary will be this amount right here. So we've referred to a cell that's 2 cells to the left and also a cell that's 3 cells to the right and up 1. And if we do nothing special in Excel, the standard way that we copy formulas, either by copying or in this case simply dragging across a few cells to see what kind of answers we're going to get, the idea of a relative reference kicks in. But it's not helping us in quite the way we would want here. In this formula, the formula is correctly picking up the next salary. That's from cell H3, because we need to go over 2 cells and get the salary. But the reference to the percent of increase, which is in cell M1, now has become M2. And as I double-click on the next cell below this in J4, we see how that reference now becomes M3. And so what we really need here is an absolute reference. The relative references, in this case to H2, they become H3 here. Those are working just fine. But the reference to the absolute cell, M1, the one we want to be absolute, isn't working. We need to make this reference absolute. And as you pick up on this, as soon as you see these in the future, you make the change immediately, usually. But if we're editing this, we can click after the M1, in front of it, or click in the middle, or even highlight it, any of those. But we make this an absolute reference by pressing F4. Or manually typing $signs. Now, you wouldn't instinctively know why $signs are being used here, but it does mean now that if we copy this formula, the reference to M1 stays the same. It's an absolute reference. And that's exactly what we want in this particular situation. So completing this entry here and then copying it into a few cells just to check it out, make sure it's working okay. Looks like those salaries are changing. What's this third one look like? Double click. We see what's happening. The reference to cell M1 stays the same. And there are certainly times like this where that's the only way to do this intelligently. Filling in column M with that percent over and over and over is not the correct way to do this. The absolute reference is what we use here. And so simply pressing F4 makes the reference absolute, although you can manually type the $signs as well. But they certainly are needed at times, and it's not uncommon to see formulas with relative references like the H2s here and absolute references together in the same formula.